Welcome and thank you for joining us today. We've got a whole bunch of people joining the call, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome. My name is Cameron Galbraith, and I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Turvo. Very excited to have you all join us, and thank you for joining us for our webinar, Engage Customers and Improve Margins with Turvo Analytics. We're going to kick it off now, and it wouldn't be a webinar about logistics if we didn't start with the logistics of the webinar. So we have a lot of people joining us today. Therefore, we've automatically muted audio and video for all attendees. But if you have a question at any point, you can drop that in the chat button or just hit that chat button at the bottom of the screen. You can send that to us. We'll have a brief Q&A at the end. If we don't get to your question, don't worry. We'll follow up with you over email. We're also going to record this webinar. So you can provide that link to any colleagues that might be interested in this material, but they couldn't make it today, or if you want to go back and look at it, we'll send that afterwards. So with that, let's dive into our agenda. Just to give you an overview, I'll introduce some of our awesome presenters today, tell you a bit about their background. We'll do a quick overview of Turvo and Turvo Analytics for context. And then we'll dive in and show you how Taman Transport and SFL companies are using Turvo today. And as I mentioned, we'll have that brief Q&A at the end. So again, don't worry, if you've got questions, type those in and we'll get to them right then. So with that, let's get into the introductions for our panelists. So first up, I'm really pleased to introduce Dakota Williams. He's the CFO at Taman Transport. Dakota leads the finance and accounting team at Taman and previously attained his CPA while working as a supervisor in the management and advisory services and audit departments at HHM CPAs. They're a full-service consulting and CPA firm with 2 offices in Tennessee. And he and his wife, Morgan, have 2 young sons where they live in, I hope I pronounced this right, Ooltewah, just outside of Chattanooga. And next up, we've got Sydney Yaskovitz. She's the Technology and Change Management Manager at SFL Companies. Sydney's been there for the last 6 years and has a wide array of responsibilities handling all the training, integrations, troubleshooting, and onboarding for the entire organization. So she'll have a lot of insights to share with us. And of course, as I mentioned, my name is Cameron Galbraith. I'm the Director of Product Marketing. And for today's webinar, I'm really pleased to be joined by my colleague and co-host, Carson Morales. Carson is a certified project management professional, and he's really been the driving force behind Turvo Analytics and ensuring that our customers always have really actionable information right at their fingertips. So really excited to have this group here today. Now, many of you are customers and users of Turvo today, but maybe haven't seen Turvo Analytics, or for those of you that don't or aren't familiar with Turvo, I wanted to provide just a little bit of context on what it is that we do. So we at Turvo have really pioneered a new category called collaborative logistics that connects people, organizations, and systems in one cloud-based platform for complete visibility across the supply chain. And today, thousands of organizations use Turvo to run their business, manage their supply chain, get updates on shipments. And that ranges from major shipment or major logistics providers like Ryder and Lineage, all the way to shippers like Chevron, Tesla, and many others. And by uniting all of your different systems and providing one common standard for collaboration, really a network, not only are you more effective, but with this newfound visibility, you can actually measure your performance, improve your business, and that's where Turvo Analytics comes in. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my co-host, Carson, who's going to give you a brief overview of Turvo Analytics. Carson?
Thanks, Cameron. Hi, everyone. My name is Carson Morales. As Cameron mentioned, I'm a product manager here with Turvo, focused on our analytics platform. Today, what I want to talk about is what Turvo Analytics is as an overview, and then we'll give a short demo before we hand over to Sydney and Dakota to walk through how they've been able to use analytics to improve their businesses. So our goal with Turvo Analytics is actually to help your business make better business decisions. And the reason that we wanted to create this product was that in talking to our customers, we saw a lot of common business problems across the industry. Is that you have data, but it resides in multiple different siloed places. And that makes it difficult to create any sort of automation. So collecting, analyzing your business, it's difficult and it's time consuming. Usually this is someone or multiple people on your team that are spending a good amount of their time, either weekly or quarterly, going in, downloading data, manually transforming it, combining it, and then distributing it out to your different teams. This makes it very difficult to assess the health of your business in real time. because it's so time consuming to actually put these different views together, that so much time is spent preparing these different data views that very little time is spent actually analyzing and working with the data and getting valuable insights out of the data. So what is Turvo Analytics? And what Turvo Analytics really is a data engine that looks across your order to cash lifecycle for your customer shipments. So this is, you can use the content that we've created or you can customize that to your own needs, or you can actually create content from scratch. This is all based on the data that you are populating within the Turvo platform, so no additional manual data capture is required. What this lets you do is you can easily iterate on the content that you've created or on the content that we've built for you, so you can drill into your data and understand new trends in minutes instead of hours. And the reason that this is possible is you have this single source of truth that this data rests upon, is that all of our reports, dashboards, KPIs, these are all built on top of these data sources within Turvo Analytics, so that everyone's looking at the same data, everyone's on the same sheet of music, and that it makes it very simple to collaborate and share data across different teams and different organizations. And what this whole system allows is for you to free up your analysts so that they can spend more time developing new content, finding new insights, drilling into business trends that they see, rather than just spending their time preparing the data. And the reason for that is that after you prepare the data the first time, once you establish that view, it will always be kept up to date with the latest shipment data, the latest data that's there within your tenant, so that when you go for your QBR or your monthly business reviews in the future, you just log into that Turvo Analytics and go to that page, and it will be up to date with your latest information. So the way we have this offering set up is we have a set of pre-developed content that we've made for you across multiple different business areas. And then you can actually use these same data attributes that we have, and you can either customize the views that we have if there are other metrics that you want to highlight, or you want to represent the information in another way, or you can actually from scratch develop your own reporting KPIs or visualizations to drill into these different data. So just a quick overview, we've got a financial metrics summary. This looks at the financial health of your business. You can break down by lanes, by customers, by carriers. We have a customer QBR scorecard. This is to help you prove to your customers why they should trust you with their freight and hold yourself accountable for your own performance and transparency. We have a carrier scorecard that lets you drill into your own carriers to improve your on-time performance, to reduce your costs. We have some dwell and detention time KPIs so that you can see how high dwell times are impacting your customers' carriers. And we have driver KPIs that you can use to hold your drivers accountable for using a tool like the Turvo Driver mobile app, so that you can get more efficiency out of your carrier operations and save your brokers and carrier reps time. All right, so with that, I will move over to just a short demo of the carrier scorecard, just to give us a sense of what the system looks like and how this can be relevant for you. Let me share my screen here. All right, so here you can see this is your standard Turvo front page, and we have analytics actually resting directly on top of this. So right now this is available within this shortcut tray here, but we're actually moving this to this section here so that you can easily log in and always have access to this data set. So from here, this will take you to your analytics front page. You can favorite different content if there are specific views that you want to reference regularly. It'll also show you some of the recent things that you've accessed, or different content that it thinks might be relevant for your particular organization. So in this case, we'll go to the carrier scorecard view here. And within this carrier scorecard, what you'll see is that we have on the left-hand side all of your carriers that you've done business with over the last 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. By default, we load up the last 6 months worth of data, but just so we have a little bit more data here, I'm going to stretch this out to 18 months. And what you see is on the left-hand side, we have each of the different carriers that you work with, and then we go through different categories of performance for these carriers. So you can easily compare your shipment volumes, your margins, your carrier pay. These are financial metrics that you can use to drill into to make sure that you have a profitable relationship with each of your different carriers at the top line. We have performance metrics like on-time pickup, on-time delivery, and then your service percentage, which is a combination of those on-time and on-time pickups and deliveries. We measure our on-time at the stop level. We have some operational metrics here as well. Things like how long it took them to upload their POD, how long or what percentage of these shipments were tracked using the driver app or another telematics solution, and then what used automatic tracking, either the driver app or a telematics solution. So from there, you can filter into these data. You can apply specific carriers if there are specific carriers that you want to highlight. Same for specific customers. And from here, you can easily go through and look at your carriers, compare them to one another. So this top level view is great if you're doing something like a carrier consolidation, where you want to reduce the number of carriers that you're working with. You can start from the bottom of your carriers on a profitability, or if you want to look into a specific carrier's performance for something like contracting. In addition to this, we have a carrier performance by lane view. And what this view will help you do is actually drill into your carrier performance on your specific lanes. So for example, I'll just sort from highest to lowest here for shipment volume. Let's look at the carriers that are supporting this lane from Los Angeles to Somerville, Massachusetts. So here we can go in and we can see we have 5 different carriers that we've worked with in the last 18 months across this lane. And we can easily come in here and see this Western Express, we're getting significantly higher carrier pay per mile, and therefore our margins a lot lower. So without any manual effort at all, we can use this as a first iteration routing guide of we can send this to CRST International first, and then down to Western Express as our last one. So we automatically can make sure that we're working with carriers that have given us the best historical rates in the past. In the same way, we can look across here at our service percentages. We see that we're getting an excellent service percentage with CRST, so no need for us to make any changes here. And it's very simple for you to just come through and click through any of these different lanes and see the different carriers that have supported you previously here. We also have some additional flexibility. You can actually come through here and change this to a customer comparison. This is great for something like if you have an SLA that a customer is requiring, you can actually make sure that you are working with carriers that support that SLA. For example, we can come in here and check on Sears Holding. So we have a higher than 90% service percentage here. If we want to drive that up to an even higher number, we can sort from lowest to highest on our service percentage. And this will surface carriers that we've worked with in the past for Sears Holdings that have not given us a good on-time performance. This Roadrunner Transportations, in this instance, we've done 13 shipments with them, and they, we have barely a 70% service percentage. So that's a carrier that we could look at the lanes that they're supporting and see if we have any other alternative carriers that we could work with instead. And I'll mention here, this is all fictional data. So, I'm sure Roadrunner Transportation is an excellent carrier. From here, and this is true for all of our default views, you can actually drill into the specific shipments that cause this so that you can actually look for any specific trends and then link back to the platform itself so that you can get more insights on what happened for each of these. So I could click on any of these and go back into the platform and see what caused us to miss these performances or why our costs were high. We can drill into accessorials, and we can really start to understand exactly what led to this particular performance. And then in addition to all of this, I'll just show quickly what this edit modality looks like. You can actually come in, break open any of these views and save them to your tenant so that you can actually come in here, create a copy of this in your site's custom reports. That way, if there are specific metrics here that are not relevant to your business, or if you want to change how these are represented, you can actually customize all of these different views and create a copy of them, distribute those across your team, iterate on those in real time, so that instead of having to pull an entirely new data set and make those changes, you actually have access to all of these different, more than 200 different attributes that we've modeled out for you across all of these different dimensions. Things like different dates that are on the shipment, when it was picked up. You can look at your destinations, your different destination metrics, different financial metrics. All of these are here for you to use under the hood so that they can be put into used to create your own views. All right, so with that, I will turn back over to Cameron for us to work over to Sydney and Dakota to talk through their use cases and how they've been able to leverage this platform in real life for their actual businesses.
Thanks, Carson. That was awesome. Yeah, as he said, let's take a look now at how Taman is using Turvo Analytics. So I'll share my screen here, and Dakota, over to you.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. So with Turvo Analytics for our team, our background with analytics was pretty far off from where we're at now. We found ourselves constantly looking at our data, going into meetings and asking the question, how do we use all this data that we have and use it towards to our advantage, use it to create actionable data, really drive our meetings to a new height amongst our executive team and our sales team, and overall just really for the entire company. The data that we now have with Turvo Analytics can be applied to every aspect of our company, not just our sales team or our executive team. It's all the way across our organization. And prior to implementing Turvo Analytics, we were working with data sets that were mostly consistent of Microsoft Excel databases. And as much as I like to, consider myself an Excel wizard or at least a grandmaster, maybe, I'm not sure if I've reached the wizard level, but we're working with data sets that were difficult to manipulate on an ongoing basis, keep them up to date. We found ourselves constantly resetting our data when we wanted to make an improvement to our analysis. The underlying data table that was necessary to create our analysis was constantly needing to be manually updated because we had no live connection to our data and everything going on in our business. So on a monthly basis, I found myself spending the majority of my time for these analyses working on just getting to the analysis as far as getting the data there, and less time was available to actually analyze what we wanted to look at and come up with a game plan moving forward with that data. And so our natural evolution and progression of our analytics and our ability to analyze our company was hindered by the slow rebuild process that we were constantly going through. Now we have one database from our live data, no more than 90 minutes old at any point in time, that we're able to constantly review and analyze in live, almost live data. So we're looking at customer analyses, carrier analyses, specific lanes for our customers, employee performance, and then just our own internal key performance indicators that we track on an ongoing basis. And all of that in the past was an individual database that we were constantly refreshing. Now it's one connection to our live database, and it's made my life in particular much easier, not having to spend an abundance of time just reworking the data and being able to really focus on what we really think will make an impact to our company, which is actually conducting a thorough analysis. We would go into our meetings and we'd find ourselves asking the question with an analysis, well, how did that compare to 2 years ago at this time frame? Or how did that compare to this quarter of last year? Various ways we could look at the data and make a comparison, and the type of questions that you can't readily prepare for, all the different questions that will be asked in a meeting from your team, from the executive team. And you can only put yourself in their mindset so much leading into the meeting. And what we'd find is that we would spend all this time preparing for a meeting and maybe have to reconvene after we run these various scenarios and analyses. What we're able to do now is go into a meeting with a live data set using Turvo Analytics. We can have it pulled up and shared onto a screen in our conference room. And if there's a question about how it compares to a prior time frame, we're able to make that adjustment on the fly to the analysis that we're working with, and we're able to see how it looks. We were getting into the beta testing of Turvo Analytics. We were fairly new with using a business intelligence solution such as this. I had some experience in the past, but definitely was not considered a super user by any means of this type of software. So it took some time for us to familiarize ourselves with the capabilities that this would allow for us and the doors it would open for us. What we found most useful was these pre-built reports that Turvo created for us as a launching off point, really. And it's something that we actually find ourselves coming back to on a fairly frequent basis. As you can see on our screen here, there's a number of ways that you can look at your report here, selecting the customer, the date, time frame, how far back you want to go. And we're looking at the KPIs of that customer or as a company as a whole. And with that, we're able to dig in. So if we wanted to identify a few target customers to evaluate, what we would do in that scenario is simply click on them and their name in the breakdown here, and it would allow us to dig in a little further and see those KPIs for those customers specifically and how they've been performing. We can see them over time, and we could actually look back at specific time frames. And all the various questions that we found ourselves asking in the meetings, we're now able to look at them in real time and not have to reconvene and make notes of the questions we need answered and reconvene at a later time. So what it really did for us, opening the door for us, was really brought about time savings to our executive team. And what is your time worth to you to be able to eliminate an entire first meeting just to to identify these questions? You're now able to knock out an entire meeting for your executive team and go into that one meeting and get all your questions answered in any way you need to look at it. For us, that's been huge in improving our performance and being able to look for solutions in our data and evaluating the cost of our time for our executive team. As you can see with the financial metric summary, you can dig in even further and actually compare your customers to one another on these same KPIs. So our team really found benefits in looking at the data from Turvo Analytics versus just a summary of an analysis that we've ran. That's been a drastic improvement just for our executive team. And the benefits of having up-to-date data is self-explanatory for most. You're able to look at your data in, like Carson said, almost real time, no more than 90 minutes old. And I feel like at that point, we're almost nitpicking how close to real time we want to be. I think at no more than 9 minutes old, we're getting about as much data as we can handle and seeing real time performance. And what that did was we would no longer be, 10 days into the next month looking at, well, how did the last month go and how did that compare? And what was last month's performance an anomaly? Is that trend still taking place? Is that continuing on? And now we're able to answer that question. We're not looking back at just last month. We're able to see, has that continued? Are we still looking at that in real time today? Or is there something that should have continued to happen and for whatever reason has dropped off, and we're alert to it in real time? We can go to address it in real time. So that's been a major improvement for us and how our team, the executive team, manages our data. We found some drastic improvements in the qualitative KPIs, specifically with our carrier scorecard. The way we use the carrier scorecard that Turvo created for our team. The financial side to it is I don't want to say easy. It's definitely not easy because you're not keeping it up to date, but it's easier to look at the financial side of your performance with carriers. The difficult part is these qualitative factors that were nowhere near on our radar before Turvo Analytics. On-time pickups and on-time deliveries and service percentage, those are great for evaluating how your carriers are performing for you, but also the way that Turvo Analytics allows us to evaluate the average days to collect POD, which carriers are working for us and following through on the paperwork side in a timely fashion. How often is our team initiating that link to share tracking with the carrier and getting them on tracking and seeing the benefits of a carrier who consistently uses tracking for us versus one that only uses it occasionally or maybe doesn't use tracking for us, and drawing some comparisons of the qualitative factors of working with various carriers and how our team is handling the impacts of that. It's great to say that you have tracking available to you, but if you're not utilizing it and your team's not utilizing it, then the benefits are limited. And what this has done for our executive team has allowed us to consistently monitor that and evaluate how it's working for us, and that you're using it in the right way and taking the right steps to get 100% usage and take advantage of the full benefits of what's available to us through Turvo. One of our specific use cases for Turvo Analytics has been the analysis of a freight spend for a customer. We had, to be honest, fairly humble beginnings with this. The data set that we've worked from in the past, it was like I've mentioned, an Excel database, and I'm a CPA by trade, so I have more of a financial mindset, and I look at spreadsheets all day. And I really felt like this picture here was a incredible presentation for this customer at the time. My mind was not yet opened to data visualization in the way that Turvo Analytics has opened it up. And we were also held back by the software that we're working with. Like I mentioned, so much of our time was spent just getting the data prepared to start to present on it, that we did not focus as much on the overall quality of the presentation itself. We wanted to get the data presented, but we spent so much time getting to the data that our presentation was lacking. In hindsight, we now feel like it was lacking. When you look at what our data set being live and up to date at all times allows for us to do, it's pretty mind blowing in my opinion to see where we've gone to with this presentation with our customers. So that one pager in the past has now become this overall report here that you'll see. And what's really improved from our perspective is all of this is being presented by our usage of Turvo Analytics. Every one of these reports and graphs and pictures has been created within Turvo Analytics. We're looking at this data for a customer, and we've redacted this data obviously for their purposes. So this is an example of what we're presenting to them, but we're really able to focus in on some KPIs for them and how they evaluate their data, how we evaluate it. What we want to show them, what they think, or what we think they will benefit from on the data, and really allow for them to draw correlations between what we're presenting to them. The data visualization factor to this report has drastically improved how we feel about what we're presenting to them, but also what we believe they're going to benefit from in this presentation. So that they're actually taking this presentation and including it with a report for their headquarters. So they're taking what we're presenting to them and taking up the ladder, so to speak. And so what we're trying to do here is really focus on being a quality partner for them. And we think that the improvements that we've been able to implement by using Turvo Analytics has really driven that home, that we're focused on a partnership with them and really improving how we are and how we're seen as a partner to them. I think the report comparison for itself it speaks for itself with the improvements that are made, but all of that has been made available through Turvo Analytics. We're able to create the report the one time, constantly have up-to-date data that we're working from. And so from there, we're just focused on making improvements and how can we get better and how can the report be better, and constantly focused on our customer there.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much, Dakota. That was really insightful. I'd like to turn it over now to Sydney, who's going to talk a bit about how SFL Companies is using Turvo Analytics. Sydney?
Hello, as Cameron said, my name is Sydney. I am the technology and change management manager there. So I handle all of like the technology, anything, I guess. So Turvo has been a big part of that. And I just want to take a step back and say, I've been with Turvo through the beginning. So we've had Turvo for quite a few years now, 4 years. And just by using Turvo, as my CEO, Royce would say, we're able to do 60% more business with 30% less the people. So we're able to handle double the shipments with half the amount of people. So just some of the things that Turvo has come up with in the last 4 years is just amazing. And Turvo Analytics is one of those pieces. So what I'm going to talk about is a couple of different scenarios on how I've created reports and how it's been able to save me time. So my first kind of our bigger project was we had we have a customer, and obviously we know that times are different and right now, and rates have fluctuated drastically. And we have a fairly large contract with a nationwide shipper. When COVID hit, we went from making a fair margin on our shipments to being upside down rather quickly. We noticed we were losing money on about 60% of our lanes overnight and making money on only 40% of them. So we knew we had to make a change and act fast with these rates. So before Turvo Analytics, I would have had to spend days collecting the data. I would have had to run multiple different reports to get it all lined up. And then, when exporting it, I would have had to do many different things to make it look good in the Excel. But now with Turvo Analytics, I'm able to create a report in just a few minutes. And when Dakota had mentioned, it took him some time to kind of understand the platform, and it took me some time too. We were part of the beta program. So yes, now it takes me a few minutes, but before it took me a couple of hours to figure it out. But once I got a hang of it, it's pretty great. So I only ran the report one time, and I was able to create the formulas actually within the report itself. So not having to export it into Excel and then create formulas, I was able to do that all in one report. So that was really awesome. And then we showed our customer the lane by lane report and showed them that the market had jumped. So Turvo Analytics really gave us the ability to show them every lane that we've ran with them and all of the average rate per mile for the carrier, the average rate per mile for the customer, and just really break it down lane by lane. And then, using Turvo Analytics, it would give us the ability to do that rather quickly and get it to them in a fast way versus taking a few days to get it done. And we're using real data, and to Dakota's point, we're able to use that data quickly, not just, data from a few days ago. It was within 90 minutes. So it was really great to get that done. And then we were able to change those rates and show our customer and renegotiate those lanes. So it was really helpful in that aspect. And also on that same customer, we had some issues with carriers being stuck and held up at shippers for too long. So obviously we all know when that happens, we, have to pay attention, customer has to pay attention. And then it also, we might get caught up to not make delivery on time. Obviously it's not our fault, it's not the carrier's fault, it's not the driver's fault, it's the shipper's fault. So we were able to come up with a report to show the customer all of their locations, when we picked up from the location, so what days of the week. And we were able to show them how long we sat at each location and kind of show them that, okay, well, there's certain days we're not picking up from. Well, we could pick up from those days instead because we're getting held up so long at other days. So being able to show them that, obviously we're showing them that we can save money by not having to pay attention. And then also, showing them that if we do make these changes and we do limit the amount of time we're held up, we're going to get better at our on-time percentage and not have to change so many appointments. So it's not only helping the customer, but it's helping us, it's helping our drivers, get to their next shipment that they have to pick up and not have to move appointments around all the time when we know after we get held up for, so many hours, we all know that drivers have to take that break. So it really helped in that aspect as well, being able to show them all the dwell times. And before we didn't have this data, it would have taken, I've never even tried, so I'm not sure how long it would have taken us. Probably quite some time because we would have had to go through every single location itself. But with using Turvo Analytics, it took very little time. And I think there's a report already created as well that you can just go in and filter it out. So one of the coolest reports I think that we have been able to use so far. Next one's just a fairly simple one, but it's something that saved me quite a bit of time. So one of our customers was looking for a specific report twice a month. They basically wanted a lane history report, but there was a couple of things in that report that I would have had to enter in manually versus just being able to export a lane history report. So I had to manually enter this data into each report, and it took me about an hour per report. So not too much time, but it's about 2 hours a month. And after creating each report, I had to save it. I had to send it over to the salesman. He had to then send it over to his customer. So many different moving parts, right? So now that I have Turvo Analytics, I'm able to create the report one time. I don't have to create it again. One time, a couple of months ago, I created it, and I don't have to add any data manually. I can actually create the report with all the other fields that I needed. And then within this report, I also have the ability to save it. So create it one time, saved it one time. And now I actually don't even send it to the sales guy, because I told him, you can just go into Turvo Analytics. You can hit the, there's a date section he can change to just change it towards certain dates he needs for that time frame, and then hit download. And then he can just send it on to his customer. So actually, even though I still have a reminder on my computer to create this or send the report to him, he's already sent it. He already downloads it. So it's really hands off for me, right? So then the guys can go in and just grab the report themselves. So no more emails back and forth from me or from him asking for the report. He can just go in and grab it. So again, 2 hours. It saved me a month, which hindsight isn't that much overall, but it's a lot of time I can spend making different reports and other reports for other people. So lastly, the last piece I want to touch on was my CEO actually wanted to report. He wanted it each week, but he wanted to report on all shipments for the past week. And while using this report, he really wanted to focus on the ones with a low or negative revenue. So that way he can really determine, okay, why did we lose money, and where can we make a change at within the shipment? So using Turvo Analytics, I was able to, again, create the report one time, versus before Turvo Analytics, I had to go in every single week. I would have to create a report and change whatever data I needed to, create many reports to make it into one, and then email it to him every week. So I never had the ability to save it. So with using Turvo Analytics, now I can create the report one time, and then I actually use the subscribe feature, which is really great, because then I can select when I want to send it to him, and it'll automatically send to him. And just to be sure that it goes out, I actually have it send to myself too. And that way I know for sure it went out. If he misses it, I can just quickly forward it to him. And it's been really great to be able to use that feature. I love the subscribe feature. And there's many different days of the week and times you can send it within the subscribe feature. So again, that's saving me some time not having to create the report and send that email. So overall, Turvo Analytics has saved me, I can't even imagine how many hours a week it's saved me. So I'm able to focus on other things like Turvo trainings and onboardings and integrations versus having to create the same reports over and over again. So I really loved using Turvo Analytics. I know that it saved me a lot of time. And I know our CFO uses it a little bit too. He uses that financial metrics summary as well, the same one Dakota was talking about, because it's a report that's already created for us. And all we have to do is go in and change the data and select which data we want to see at that time. So year over year analysis is really important, I think, for our CFO. So he likes to use that report as well. So overall, I love Turvo Analytics, and I hope you guys all do too.
Awesome. Thank you, Sydney. Thank you, Dakota. Those are really awesome presentations. And I want to open it up now to Q&A. We've had a couple questions come in, so I'll jump into those. But as a reminder, there's the chat and the Q&A question down there below. So go ahead and type those in, and we'll get to those as we can. We've got some good time here. So first question, let's do one for Dakota, since Sydney just went. So you mentioned when you were going through and bringing all together those different databases, data sources, that you were focused on equipment and location data. Tell us a bit about that. Why did you focus on equipment and location data?
So for our customer, for our presentation, we really talked about how can we improve. And so for this customer specifically, one of the things that we felt they would be positively impacted by is evaluating where their costs are coming from and why costs may differ on the same lane or at different times of the year. And so what we wanted to focus in on for them was their costs as it broke down by the type of equipment being used. to transport their products. And what we felt like it may positively impact their decision making on is, can they make slight adjustments to their schedule or to their operations or their locations that they're using, their sourcing partners, that may positively impact their freight spend as a whole, and their overall transportation network. So what we were looking at for them and evaluating was, does the location, can it change? Is it able to change? And if you're looking at it from that perspective, are you generating savings from shipping from one location or another in certain timeframes? And so we're really trying to put ourselves in their minds and have those conversations with them of what might positively impact their decision-making processes and their analysis, even beyond our analysis, and what would positively impact ourselves from that analysis. We really felt like equipment type and locations would be impactful to their decision-making.
Awesome. We've had one more come in. This is to both Sydney and Dakota. So maybe Sydney, you can go first. Question is, what has been your single biggest benefit of the reporting as it relates to improving your customer experience?
So I think one of the biggest benefits of the reporting is actually the driver usage, because obviously we know all customers just really want to see where the freight is. And by having the Turvo driver app and the Turvo driver drivers using that app, we can see in the Turvo analytics how many or what the percentage of the carriers that use it on which lanes and for certain customers. So I think that's the biggest benefit, because we can explain to them, like, these are how many drivers are using the app on your shipments, and this is what the visibility you have. So we use the sharing link to send to our customers so they can just simply click on the link to see where their drivers are at. So with that reporting, I think that part's the biggest benefit towards our customers, because we can show that data to them and say, these are all the drivers that are using the app and being tracked on your shipment in this time.
Yeah, I have a pretty similar experience there as Sydney with the improvements that we're making for our customers. Is the tracking link is like I've said, it's awesome to have and to market it. It markets itself when you can track track someone's data or their shipment and their products, and you can tell them, hey, you're tracking this. But when you can actually show it to them, the percentage of usage, that speaks volumes for backing up what you sold to them to begin with. So that's definitely been a drastic improvement for us. And then also the presentation that I gave is just an example of what we're trying to do for our customers as far as evaluating from their mindset and visualizing the data, and also helping visualize for them their overall freight spend and what their transportation network looks like.
Awesome. Maybe as a follow-up to that, we have another question come in around KPIs. And I would probably actually open this up to Dakota, Sydney, and Carson as well. So some of the most sought after KPIs by our customers, i.e. supply chain management or logistics management. I guess maybe just to that general question, what are the most sought after KPIs that your customers are looking for that you're able to provide them?
I can take a first crack at that. I think as far as I think when we were thinking about signing this and what we wanted to put forwards, I think the biggest ones we wanted to focus at right off the bat were the financial metrics, making sure that you have a profitable relationship with your different customers or your different carriers, your different lanes, making sure that your operationally your on-time percentage was solid. That you're able to see this performance and hold your carriers accountable for bad performances, or for making sure you're working with the best carriers that for your customers, and then actually being able to kind of bring in some of the cycle times from your Turvo usage yourself. So things that only Turvo can see, like when documents were uploaded, how long it took to invoice, how long it took between invoicing and payment, some of these more kind of these pieces within the shipment where it's important to that we can highlight those and actually bring those in. And then the other piece of that is we're bringing in new KPIs constantly. Every single release, we're adding in new fields, new features. In this, I think when we launched, we had about 100 fields in there. I think we've basically doubled that. I think we have more than 200 at this point. And what we're looking to in 2021, we want to expand more into things you call out the supply chain management, logistics management. We really want to focus more not only on the brokerages side, but the shippers and the customer side, so that we can bring in things like your OTIF percentages, the percentage of your cost or your freight, the ratio between your product cost and your freight cost, so making sure that we can both cater to both like the margin perspective it's very important to brokers, and the more shipper focused perspectives as well. But Sydney or Dakota, anything you guys want to add as far as what are your, which of the KPIs are most important to you, or if you've created any KPIs within the system that weren't there originally?
No, I think you spoke to the majority of them, Carson. And I imagine that you have more of those conversations direct with shippers on the KPIs they're looking for than I do. We haven't had too many experiences of customers seeking out that from us, mostly because I think the whole idea of Turvo Analytics is not even on some people's radar that's something we can provide to them, is that type of reporting from a KPI using analytics as that software platform. So the on-time percentage is definitely the biggest one that we get feedback on, and that's one that you definitely mentioned is the key for us.
Yeah, I would agree with Dakota. The on-time percentage, and obviously the freight spend too. But I agree. I haven't been asked personally for many KPIs from our different customers. Our CEO might have, but I'm the one that just makes the reports, so I haven't seen much come over yet. So.
Got it. Awesome. Maybe as a follow-up for Sydney. So you're a change management leader. Obviously, it's been a year of a lot of change. And you mentioned having to renegotiate some of the rates on the lanes and things like that. So one of the questions is, what generally do you see as the key to a successful change management initiative?
So I really think the key is communication, right? What are you communicating? What's the change essentially? And then making sure you have a process in place, not just saying, okay, we have this change and here it is, but we don't know how it's going to affect anything. And, you really have to have a process. You can't just push something and expect it to go great. So really a process, communication, and just giving yourself time to make that change, and knowing that there will be some setbacks when that change comes into play.
Got it. Thank you. And maybe to move to the next question then, which is kind of on the same topic for change in 2020 to both Dakota and Sydney. So maybe let's go Dakota first. What's been the biggest thing in your business that you've had to reevaluate this year?
I think with the type of year that this year was, especially working in a remote environment for a pretty large period of the year, we had to reevaluate how we're evaluating our team. With the year that we had, and I feel like so many companies had, one of the things that stood out to us is with the fluctuations in the market, a lot of times it became about making sure that you keep a relationship, you maintain a relationship. It may not be the profitable relationship that it was in the past, but keeping that relationship could become just as important to us in this year as making 5% more in a prior year. So reevaluating what our team was having to do to keep relationships and the qualitative side of what they do, especially in the remote environment. It almost would have been near impossible without the reporting that was made available through analytics. Looking at how often are they sharing the POD, or not, I'm sorry, the POD, the tracking link to the carrier, because that helps us get the POD quicker. And those types of metrics that weren't available to us in the past, we're starting to evaluate those this year because of the year that it was, and not being in the office to overhear those conversations and be around them to see what their day really looks like.
Yeah, I kind of agree with the whole relationship aspect. Obviously making sure we have close relationships with our customers, but also with our carriers. Because when we started using the Turbo Driver app, it's really hard to just get anyone and everyone on the app. So once you build those relationships and they understand how the product works and they understand how great it is, it's a lot easier to get the driver to use the app. So keeping those relationships was a great focus of ours, because we wanted to continue to use the driver app. And with just the change of 2020 and I mean, everything happening, carrier relationships are really important to us. Now, obviously, you can use that carrier scorecard to determine who our top relationships are with each of our carriers and go from there.
Awesome. And maybe as a segue from that point to Sydney, you mentioned early on in your presentation, you're able to essentially do more with less. I forget the stats, but it was 60% more with 30% less or the other way. Why were you able to do that? Tell us a bit more about how Turvo enabled that improvement.
So one of the biggest pieces I think is the Turbo Driver app. It's given us the ability to just kind of be hands off. The driver is getting there. We know that because of the app, the tracking. The tracking is a lot because before we'd have to make so many calls, wondering where the driver is, when will he be there, or is he going to be on time, or is she going to be on time? So now that we have the driver app, we're able to, eliminate at least 3 calls, maybe 10 calls, because when are they going to get there? How far are they? So with the Turbo Driver app and that tracking link, we're able to see where they're at in real time, and then see when they're going to be there, because it gives us the ETA to the arrival. And then if they're going to be on time or not, we'll know if they're not going to be on time because we can tell for how far away they are. And then also we're able to be more hands off by just the dashboard itself, not the dashboard, I should say, but the shipment overview itself, just being able to see when the last update was of a shipment, just as simple as that. We're able to just be able to filter out different things. Okay, I want to just see the shipments that are on the road, and just different little, I'd say little, what's the word I'm looking for here? Different ways to filter and sort in a way to just be able to see the outliers and see what's going wrong in a sense. So the shipments that are running late. So we're able to really just be hands off on the ones that are doing good and focus on the ones that are doing bad, or there's an issue with them per se. So there's a lot that Turbo can do that's helped us.
Yeah, awesome. Well, perfect. I think we've got a few minutes left, and there's a couple specific questions around the product that are sort of unique to individual customers. So we'll follow up with you on those separately. I want to really then just wrap it up and thank our panelists for an amazing job sharing all these really interesting insights. As I mentioned, we're going to make the recording of this available afterwards. So as soon as that's up and live, we'll send that to you. You can share that with any of your colleagues that weren't able to make it today. And as Sydney mentioned, there is a lot that Turvo does. And so if you're interested in learning more, then I encourage you to follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. There's more info at turvo.com, and or you can just respond to any of those emails for the invite. So again, thank you everybody again for joining. This was a really great session. Thank you to Sydney and Dakota and Carson, outstanding presentations. And we will see you on the next webinar. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, all. Thanks for joining.